Hi, I'm Patrick Prince with the Tulsa World, joined by Barry Lewis, our lead high school sports writer. And we're getting together for our weekly chat on everything high school sports. We're filming a video here, but we'll also turn this audio into a podcast that's available on Apple and Google, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So you can tune, listen, or watch us on video or check out a podcast. So we'll hope you'll do at least one of the two. Barry, what's going on today? How are you?
Good. It's sort of been a newsy day. Some good, some not so good. So let's just start off.
Well, how about the Booker T boys? Let's start there. They undefeated 8-0. Drastic improvement from last year when they went 2-9 with some COVID cancellations, as you pointed out in today's paper. What's their deal? How have they turned it around?
Well, there are a few factors which led them to turning around. Last year was such a weird year to begin with for Booker T Washington because half their games got canceled by COVID. They played, I think last year they wound up playing like one fewer game than the football team did, or the same amount of games. That's really weird. So they could never get into a flow, and that was really tough. It was going to be a challenging year anyway because of Eli Brown had moved over from Central's his first season as Booker T Washington's coach, and whoever coached the team, it was going to be a rebuilding season because they graduated Bryce Thompson and they graduated Trey Phipps and some others. So it was going to be a challenging year anyway, because those are some huge losses there from a team that had won the state championship in 19 and was probably going to win it in 2020. So new coach, then you have COVID, heavy graduation losses, and then their schedule last year, the 11 games they played, there were no cupcakes in there. Incredibly challenging schedule. So this year was going to be better regardless. Some of the younger players got a year of experience, and then a big addition for them. And of course, they're more used to the new Coach Brown system. And Coach Brown is an outstanding coach, as he showed at Central for a decade. But a big addition was Aaron Potter moving from Owasso. So that was huge. And as Coach Brown said, Aaron Potter not only is the team's leading scorer, but just all the intangibles he brings that just is rubbed off in everyone. It's contagious, as he said, contagious in a good way. Mm-hmm. Great work ethic, attitude, that additional score. And he was really an important player for Owasso last year. He wasn't the star for Owasso last year, but he was probably their third best player in the team on a team that went to the state tournament. So huge addition getting Aaron Potter, and he's been everything they had hoped for and more. Was the MVP of the Conoco Phillips Arvest tournament this past weekend. And lo and behold, Booker T is 8-0, ranked 8th in Class 6A. You usually can't say this about Booker T, but Booker T's been under the radar. I mean, normally everyone knows about Booker T. Everyone is aware of Booker T, a tradition-rich school with all those basketball titles. But this year, no one was paying any attention to Booker T because they were 2-9 last year. But what a turnaround, 8-0. They've got Aaron Potter. Besides Aaron Potter, they have other talented players. They're getting really balanced scoring, double-figure scoring, 3 or 4 players a night. So it's not just a one-man team. IJ Johnson, Cam Parker, Lathan Boone, they all have been really good for Booker T this year. They all, Johnson, Parker are sort of holdovers from the state championship #1 ranked team era. And as Coach Brown said, that after the team struggled last year, they've got that championship mentality back this year now that they've got it going. And Lathan Boone, great year on the football field, and he brings that leadership that he shows as a quarterback in football to the basketball team. So Booker T has really got it going. So look out for the Hornets. I'll be looking forward to seeing them play at Owasso on Friday.
Good matchup. Let's stay with TPS. Kind of the same question with the Central Braves, Barry. They, struggled to a 4-win season last year, but they're 9-2 this year so far. What have they done?
Yes. And it's sort of interesting. Both of them are coming off tournament wins this past weekend, coming off poor, really tough seasons last year. And they're sort of connected because Eli Brown left Central to go to Washington. And so that opened the door for Aaron Daniels to be Central's coach. Of course, a lot of the things that apply to Washington apply to Central. They've got a coach in his second year under a new coach. You can often see a lot of improvement from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah.
Central, unlike Washington, they had a few COVID postponements last year, but not nearly as much as Booker T did. So they almost played a full season last year, but just didn't have much success. But as Coach Daniels says, year of experience, what a difference that a year makes. And Kalen Goff-Brown is a very dynamic player. Last year, it didn't seem at times that he had much help. He's got help this year, and he's a really fun player to watch. So Central's 9-2, and Central is sort of like Washington, although, I mean, Central's got a great basketball tradition too. They have definitely a perennial state title contender under Coach Brown when he was at Central. And so it's not, so they're back to where they're used to being in the mix for at least in the conversation for getting into the state tournament and perhaps contending for a state title.
So I was reading through your weekly notes today, Barry, and a couple of players stood out actually on your players to watch, but one guy I wanted to ask you about, Trey Davis at Webster, averaging 21.1 points a game. Tell us a little bit about his game.
He can shoot it up. He can shoot. He can light it up. Last year, and he's finally getting a chance to do that, because last year he was on a team led by Anthony Pritchard that had that graduated 4 seniors, and a team that went to the state semifinals last year. And there just wasn't a whole lot of shooting opportunities for Trey last year, just because the outstanding talent that Webster had. And but when Trey did get an opportunity last year, he was impressive, and now he's the guy for Coach Matt Watson in his first year as head coach. And Trey Davis is really coming on. Had a huge week last week, is averaging 21 points for the season. And so they will continue to, Webster, in order to progress, because they're a young team, not much experience coming into this year. Because remember, last year they reached the state semifinals, but they literally had 7 players on the team. Mm-hmm. So, and they usually played 6. So, and almost all those guys graduated. So they're almost like starting from scratch this year. It's almost like in pro sports, you call it like an expansion team. It's Trey Davis and everybody else. But Webster is showing improvement, and they're very encouraged by a 3rd place finish at the Skytook tournament last week, in which Trey Davis obviously was a big part of. So look for Webster to continue to improve. And Webster has a history of peaking right at the right time in the playoffs. And I think Coach Matt Watson is looking forward to that, gearing his team towards that point. And they've shown good progress this year.
Barry, I wanted to ask you about COVID in sports for a second. Cases are skyrocketing. What's going on with high school basketball? How are they handling that? Have you heard about many postponements, cancellations? Just kind of give me a general sense of what's going on with that.
Well, it's really weird because we got through the fall pretty much. Not many postponements at all. You had a few scattered about, usually in the very small communities, but really got through that pretty clean. And all of a sudden, the last week or so, on the schedule board at OSSArankings.com, you pull up the schedule, you're starting to have flashbacks to last year. You have the game scheduled, and then all of a sudden, COVID postponed. I mean, a lot of those popping up all of a sudden. Most of those have not been in the Tulsa area, thankfully, but now we're starting to get affected in this past week. Like, for example, tonight, several notable girls' games have been postponed or canceled. Jenks at Union girls has been postponed for that. Holland Hall girls, third ranked team in the state in 4A, their game tonight against Rejoice, and Thursday's what was going to be a huge matchup with Lincoln Christian, that has been postponed. Sapulpa was going to host Booker T in girls basketball tonight. That is also a COVID cancellation postponement. So it's starting to hit the Tulsa area. From what I can tell, there haven't been many boys postponements so far. I mean, when I mentioned these matchups, the boys game, usually they're double headers, boys, girls, double headers. The boys games in those double headers are still on track to being played. And I'm going to be at Jenks at Union tonight, boys. Of course, in most of those situations, for those that are interested in attending the games, check the starting time, because in most of those situations, the boys games are being moved up to, like with Union Jenks tonight, or Jenks at Union, it's moved up to 6:30. So it's not its typical 8 o'clock, it's 6:30. So that's something to keep in mind. So hopefully, it's coming to, it's next week's a big week, scheduled to be a big week in high school basketball. It's the last tournament week, and just hope everything can go on schedule, because it's a huge week for rankings. And just a reminder to everyone, keep vigilant and take the proper precautions. This is just a reminder that COVID is still very present.
So we're filming this on a Tuesday afternoon. So when you say tonight, those, depending on when you're watching or listening to this, so we'll kind of see how the rest of the week goes and see if there's more cancellations on Friday. Okay, last one for this week, Barry. Ty Pennington, the outstanding Sand Springs quarterback, committed to Pitt State a couple days ago on Twitter. What do you think about that?
It's a great opportunity for Ty. Pitt State's got an outstanding program, and it was really weird that because considering the career that Ty Pennington had at Sand Springs, why there's just what at a point in the fall, there just wasn't any interest in him at any level, or at least there weren't any offers coming to him. And it was really befuddling, because like, he's a winner. I mean, what more does he have to do to get offers, at least at strong Division II schools? And it was good to see a program at the level of Pitt State stepped up and offered him. And he announced on Twitter Saturday that he had committed, and he's following in the footsteps of his position coach at Sand Springs, Derek Harger, who also went to Pitt State. So it'll be interesting to follow Ty's career with the Gorillas.
Yeah. All right, Barry, that's it for this week. Appreciate the chat as always, and we'll catch up again Tuesday.
All right. Thanks, Patrick.